just need to forget about everything. Put away our problems. Get along with each other and
All right, welcome on in, everybody. The return, a student of the game here on a Monday on all of our Go Live Vegas platforms, as always, and we are excited to be here with you for what is a jam-packed Sports Media Monday, a jam-packed sports weekend, and naturally, we have to recap it all for you right here on Go Live Vegas. And to do just that with me today, longtime friend of the show, one of the best guests you could possibly get, talking a myriad of things. I'm talking wide variety. Yes, he is a longtime combat sports journalist and podcaster, but he has tapped into just about every avenue of the sports world, both as a member of the media and as a fan. He is the senior social editor of The Uncrowned over at Yahoo Sports, and again, longtime combat sports guru, Kel Dansby. And of course, the beauty of Kel Dansby is while we bill him as the combat sports aficionado, he can tap in to just about everything on the sports spectrum, with football being no exception, and in good timing too, because Kel, what a jam-packed weekend it was on the gridiron front, both looking at the college landscape on Saturday and the NFL landscape just yesterday. Plenty of narratives, so many storylines. We get closer and closer to the postseason of each one. The outlook and the playoff picture is becoming more and more solidified to the point where in the college realm, it's about not set in stone, but we are here approaching rivalry week on Thanksgiving weekend. You have one of the second to last, or I guess it would be, second to last rankings coming up this weekend before they get everything set up for the bowl season. So a lot of moving pieces right now. We'll get to that. But we'd be remiss if we did not open up with NFL talk given the Week 12 slate that we saw. And of course, there are multiple places we can open. But given the conversations we've been having as of late, given the very conversation I had earlier on this show with a fellow Giant fan, two sports fans, one of them being a Giant fan, another one who had a very good opinion on the whole Saquon Barkley incident. But with all the conversations going, or I should say Saquon Barkley saga now, but of all the conversations taking place, of all the reaction to both how the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants have looked, Kel, I have to ask you, before we get into the Giants side of things now, as we are in the post-Saquon era in New York, looking at what he has done to Philadelphia, we knew he would have an impact. We have seen that impact before last night. But as far as most valuable player is concerned, what did Saquon Barkley's performance on Sunday Night Football last night against the Rams? Close game at the half. The Rams were playing him tough. And next thing you know, it's the Saquon show. And it's hard, at least in my opinion, not to immediately thrust him in the upper echelon of that conversation. He was already there to begin with. But I asked you, is he leading the race now for MVP?
It's hard for non-QB to lead the race. Ever. Mm-hmm. I understand his team is doing very well. I just think in the end, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, it's easier for quarterbacks to separate themselves as it is Saquon to separate himself.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I think it's kind of conditioning, because what you say is logically true, and even if you kind of want to argue against it, it's what you're going to be up against. Because even if you want to sit here in the aftermath of what happened yesterday and say, yeah, he is the MVP, the season's also not over. And just before yesterday, people had a lot of confidence in Josh Allen in that race. And a few weeks before him, it was Jared Goff. Obviously, we're a long way away from the first quarter of the season when we were saying, Sam Darnold was the MVP front runner. We're a little bit deeper into the weeds now. But to say it could all be wrapped up, Derrick Henry could have a few more games to where he's another running back in the conversation. I think Saquon, if you're looking at a future board right now, sure. That changes week by week anyway. You can put him up there if you wanted to put a price on it, put a mark on it, if for the odds sake of everything. But in terms of conversation, I don't think you could give it to him yet anyway. I mean, we see runs like we see right here, the plays like we see right here, including the 270. And while this is stellar, I'm a little hung up on this because me and you are Giants fans. So I'm trying to separate, the confirmation bias here, I guess you could say. But anyone who has watched this player, going back to when he was at high school, Penn State, even in the first, 4 or 5 years in New York, whatever it was, you knew this was there. So while Saquon Barkley is now showing his value for the Eagles, nothing about what he is showing from an ability standpoint is new. And I think I mentioned this on the show earlier with the guys, we're kind of in this predicament to where people are starting to distort the narrative. It's about a guy who was, how do I put this? Like his team turned their back on him. We see this often in NFL free agency, right? The team that drafted the guy thinks he's done, thinks he's over the hill. They shop him out, and next thing you know, he has a resurgence, a renaissance, right? The revenge tour. We've seen that time and time again. Sometimes they win comeback player of the year. We saw what happened with Ryan Tannehill when we went to Tennessee. You write guys off. No one was writing Saquon Barkley off. So while we could sit here and talk about how productive he has been with Philadelphia and how we could sit here and talk about how he's doing things he never did with the Giants, that was supposed to be the case even before the 2024 season started. Like, we have to remember, this was one of the world's best football players with a inept, at least for the time being, organization. He is now no longer with an inept organization. So while you can point all the blame at Joe Schoen and the Giants and that whole regime, don't sit there and act like, oh, this is a team, a fan base, a culture that acted like he was over the hill and now he is just pissed off at the world and trying to get his retribution. No, Saquon Barkley went to Philadelphia because he viewed himself as the best running back in the National Football League, an echelon he has been a part of the entire run of his pro career, right up there with McCaffrey in his best years, right up there with Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara in their best years. He has always been there, even with a very, very poor offense and a very, very inconsistent offensive line and quarterback play like he had in New York. So this isn't an issue of a misused player or a player that, the home organization abandoned all loyalty and just ignored everything he had done for them prior, because it is a what have you done for me lately league. No, this is a team that basically committed to their quarterback. As a result, couldn't keep him. And the only reason all of it seems compounded is because he went to the Philadelphia Eagles. I am not going to get mad at Saquon Barkley going to a rival team. I understand. I don't agree with it, but I understand why the Giants let him go. But I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, this was an average player who now is elite because he's with Philadelphia, the same way we were doing with Sam Darnold in his first, the first quarter of the season with Minnesota, or even Baker Mayfield down in Tampa. This isn't an incident where it's like new home, new skill set, he now has a chance to shine. No, it's just eliminating all the garbage that hindered him while in New York.
Things. One, it was about health. And Philadelphia has a better offensive line. They have a better structure to keep him healthy behind the Giants' offensive line. He just wasn't.
Short as I more stacked, way deeper than the AFC. That may actually still be true as far as how many competitive teams are in the playoffs. But Detroit and Philadelphia have separated themselves monumentally. And I talked about this on the show earlier as well. It's unfortunate we don't get to see them play in the regular season because it was a preview. We actually are going to have to wait and hope they do match up in the playoffs for this to actually go down to see who is the better team. But talk about anticipation. Talk about speculation. It is only going to build as we get closer. And we don't even know if they will see each other in the playoffs. But you sure got to hope for it. Same way you hope for a Kansas City-Buffalo or a Buffalo-Baltimore, Kansas City-Baltimore matchup. You want the Titans to clash. You want the heavyweights to duke it out. And for that very reason, the Lions and the Eagles need to play each other. But we still have a ways to go. And when you have teams like Philadelphia performing the way they did last night, that conversation is going to become a little bit more concentrated. But as it does, remember what got us here. There's a cause to every effect. And the cause to the effect that we are seeing now with Barkley in Philadelphia and the lack thereof in New York is a direct result of that 2022 wild card game in which the Giants went on the road, beat the Vikings in Minnesota, in which Daniel Jones pretty much secured himself a deal. And now here we are, not even a full 2 years later, and he is on the market. While the guy who really got you there in 2022 and was as big a part of anything winning that playoff game, he's now gone. And he's in the MVP conversation. And he was, 11 yards away last night. That's just last night from breaking the single-game rushing record. 2 70-yard rushing touchdowns, human highlight reel even before last night. This is what Saquon Barkley is. This is what he's always been. Now you're going to. And we'll see where the Eagles end up as a result. But all roads, I still believe, go through Detroit. And that's what's going to make the NFC that interesting. When you have a power team like Philadelphia and an explosive, fast team like Detroit, can Philadelphia be finesse enough to hang with Detroit if they need to in a track meet? Can Detroit hang with Philadelphia in a phone booth if they were to duke it out in a slugfest? These are the questions. We hope we see them answered. Only time will tell. This is kind of just a throw it to the wall, see what sticks type of deal. For all of you who tuned in for the Game Day Huddle, we appreciate it. We'll be back in action next Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific time, right here on the Go Live Vegas platforms. We hope to be do the same right here. We're student of the game. We have some kinks to work out. We'll get them worked out. Don't worry. It's all a part of the fun. As we get closer and closer to Thanksgiving or the holidays, these conversations, these shows are only going to get more and more in depth, more and more complex, with the conversations growing more and more intricate, again, as we get closer and closer to that playoff picture in both college football and the NFL. So it'll be a lot of fun. We'll call it there. Big thanks to Kel for the time he was on with us. We appreciate anyone who tuned in. In the meantime, again, be sure to check us out First Friday down at the Arts District, downtown Las Vegas. We did it once last month. We're expecting a whole lot. So again, catch our coverage there and everything else in the Go Live Vegas airwaves here moving forward. It's been a fun 2024, and we expect a fun holiday season and a fun start to 2025. You want to get in the weeds of it now, so come join us, like, subscribe, follow, and be a part of that Go Live. We'll catch you next time here on Student of the Game.